Part 104. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1031. Lu Wenzo did come last night. This bitch, when brother Wenzo didn't bother to look at her when she got married, she was restless and tried to attract brother Wenzo's attention, but brother Wenzo didn't fall for her. Now that she is divorced, she is still so whimsical that she wants brother Wenzo to look back. She thought this bitch was having a big dream. Zhou Tao's eyes narrowed. Does Lu Wenzo want to talk to her about such a trivial matter? It's more like reporting the itinerary to his wife at home. The aura around her became colder. You are. Zhonglina walked to the bedside with an imposing manner. My name is Zhonglina. Our Zhon family and the Lu family have always been on good terms. If you hadn't been cheating on me before, I would have been the one to marry brother Wenzo. Zhou Tao chuckled lightly. Now that Lu Wenzo is single again, you can marry him. If you don't try to please him, how can you still have time to find trouble with me? Zhonglina raised her voice and said, it's not because you are still haunted. After the divorce, you still hope that brother Wenzo will come back. Before, at the reception, you flirted with brother Wenzo and seduced him, and now you are deliberately hurt and miserable. You are so scheming, Bai Lianhua. I know that men hate women pretending to be pitiful, so I use this trick. Zhou Tao said indifferently, Lu Wenzo has a very tricky taste. He likes women who are unreasonable and confuse right and wrong. Zhonglina was so angry that she raised her hand and was about to slap her, but someone grabbed her from behind. Zhou Tao didn't even see how Lu Wenzo came in. But the next second, he firmly grabbed Zhonglina's wrist. Zhonglina didn't look back at all. She just regarded her as Zhou Tao's friend. She gritted her teeth and said, let me go and let me teach this bitch a lesson. He dares to say that I am unreasonable and that my brother Wenzo has a tricky taste. Lu Yuyu hurriedly came out of the bathroom and saw such a big show. Seeing her own Mr. Lu, she felt guilty for a second. After all, she just said bad things about Mr. Lu last night, so she could only huddle by the door and did not come forward. Who told you to make unreasonable troubles here? Lu Wenzo said coldly. Zhonglina was so frightened that her blood ran cold and her legs became weak. When she looked back, she saw that it was really brother Wenzo. Brother Wenzo came to see the bitch last night, and he came again today. If not this bitch, what else could she be? Brother Wenzo, why are you here? Lu Wenzo's eyes were cold and his voice was cold. Who asked you to come here and embarrass her? Zhou Tao turned her face away, not wanting to look at these two people. Lu Wenzo was a little anxious. He didn't know that Zhonglina had found this place. Even if he realized it later, he should know what Zhou Tao was thinking at this moment. Zhonglina called him last night, and today he came shouting and even wanted to hit her. She probably thought he told Zhonglina about coming to visit her. Zhonglina had never seen such a sinister expression on brother Wenzo, and she was so frightened that her back went cold. I didn't make things difficult for her. I just heard that she was injured. Come and see her. You heard it too. It's her, the one who spoke rudely first, said that brother Wenzo, you have a tricky taste, and said bad things about me. I was so angry that I had to teach her a lesson. Lu Wenzo's face turned even more livid. Apologize to her for what you picked first. Zhonglina was furious. I didn't do anything. Why do you need me to apologize? You said she was flirting and seducing. The fact is that I have been pestering her since the divorce. You wronged her and wanted to beat her, so naturally you have to apologize to her. Zhonglina was shocked. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1032. Lu Wenzo, an extremely arrogant person. Actually, after the divorce, he came back to Zhou Tao. She didn't believe it. It must be Zhou Tao's skill that tricked Brother Wenzhou into something. But looking at Lu Wenzhou's face, she didn't dare to argue anymore, fearing that she would have to suffer the consequences in the end. For Brother Wenzhou, she was willing to put down her dignity. Zhou Tao, yes, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that to you just now. Zhou Tao chuckled lightly, if I can't bear your apology, just don't come to me in the future. Zhonglina gritted her teeth and showed her face to whom. Does she, Zhou Tao, deserve it? Lu Wenzhou said coldly, Wang Hui, take her out. Zhonglina was unwilling to give in. Brother Wenzhou, aren't you leaving? Lu Wenzhou looked at her indifferently, when will you also take care of my schedule? Zhonglina said coquettishly, Brother Wenzhou. Lu Wenzhou was very kind to her in the past. He always responded to her requests and gave special favors. Because of this, she became famous in the circle of celebrities. Why did she suddenly seem to be a different person? Lu Wenzhou's eyes were filled with coldness and he only glanced at her. She did not dare to forcibly disobey Lu Wenzhou's wishes, so she could only reluctantly follow Wang Hui out of the ward. Lu Wenzhou took another look at Lu Yuyu, who was leaning against the bathroom door. Lu Yuyu, who had said so boldly last night that men are not good at anything, suddenly turned into a coward and said respectfully, you guys chat, I'll wait for you outside. Zhou Tao was anxious, Yuyu, help me out. Lu Yuyu was in a dilemma for a while. Lu Wenzhou glanced at her and she had no choice but to go out first. Lu Wenzhou saw that the person on the hospital bed was on guard again. He put one hand in his trouser pocket, and the glass window was open. The sound of rain outside the window entered the ward. It was not too quiet, nor was it embarrassing. She had not had time to change out of the vertical striped hospital gown, and her face was a little pale. Without makeup. She is beautiful with and without makeup. The word stuck in his throat. He hesitated and said, it's not what Zhonglina and I said. Zhou Tao pinched the head of the thin quilt with her hands, looked at him, and smiled a little self-deprecatingly, if it's not you, can it still be me? There were many people who knew that she was staying in this hospital, but only a handful of people knew that Lu Wenzhou had come to visit her. Lu Wenzhou was a little agitated, it's really not me. She probably found out about it from other channels. Zhou Tao said calmly, Mr. Lu, there is no need to explain to me. He has never explained it before, and there is no need to explain it now. We have no relationship at all. There is no need. Lu Wenzhou suddenly asked, am I still qualified to pursue you again? His question came out of the blue. Zhou Tao froze there for a long time before she couldn't help laughing, what do you think? Lu Wenzhou's hand in his trouser pocket was held a little tight, and the branches washed by the rain were dazzlingly green. He didn't know how to answer for a moment. No. She says. That's so sure. Lu Wenzhou suddenly felt that his chest was congested. He took a step forward and stood beside her. His tall figure made the person on the bed feel oppressive. Why? He asked bluntly. Zhou Tao looked up at him, Mr. Lu asked me why. Don't you know why? I used to like you, but in those 2 years, you personally destroyed my love for you. I told myself again and again, give yourself one last chance. I chased you to Hiken. I approached you without any limit. I saw you having sex with other women, but I pretended not to see you. My love was consumed little by little. Clean, why? Why couldn't you see my love for you at that time? Why did you start saying these inexplicable things after the divorce? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1033. Lu Wenzhou was speechless. This was the first time he saw Zhou Tao in such an emotional state. She seemed to have expressed all her grievances at once. He destroyed her hope with his own hands and now asked her why she couldn't start over. How wronged she must be. He couldn't answer, and the ward became quiet again. Sorry, he said. After 2 years of marriage, I've done a lot of things that I've done to you, and I'm sorry. Zhou Tao lowered her eyes. Many things cannot be solved with just 2 words of apology. When I want to move forward, don't hold me back, okay? Lu Wenzhou, what can I do to restore everything in the past? Zhou Tao looked at him. I don't understand. What? I am such a living person. I have been with you for 2 years and tried my best to please you, but you never saw me. Why did you notice that I was getting better after the divorce? It was just because I lost it that you couldn't get it? Is it always the best of intentions, or do you really like me? If you liked me even a little bit, why would you treat me like that in the first place? Zhou Tao didn't believe it. She thought it was because Lu Wenzhou had the mentality that what you can't get is the best. Lu Wenzhou was speechless again. He was in confusion. He couldn't figure out what he was thinking, so how could he explain it to Zhou Tao? Zhou Tao reached out and picked up the crutches on the side. There are people coming and going in the hospital, and many people are staring at me, so I hope Mr. Lu will not put me in the spotlight again. Lu Wenzhou was speechless and had nothing to say. Zhou Tao shouted outside the ward, and Lu Yuyu poked her head in. Seeing the stalemate between the two, she tentatively entered the ward. Zhou Tao stretched out her hand. Have the discharge procedures been completed? Lu Yuyu, well, my little love is all done. Then let's go. Lu Yuyu glanced at Lu Wenzhou and felt that his profile was cold and hard, and it was obvious that he was in a bad mood. Just now, through a door, I could vaguely hear the conversation between the two people. In short, Mr. Lu is really sweet. After the divorce, he discovered how good his ex-wife was. What could be more tragic than not being able to love her? He wanted to get back together again, but Tao Zi didn't care about him anymore. Well deserved. She supported Zhou Tao, and even though she dissed Lu Wenzhou completely in her heart, her face was still very respectful. Second young master Lu, Zhou Tao and I are going out first. Zhou Tao shook her hand, meaning clearly, what did you tell him? The two of them left the ward, and Xiao Ai took the crutch from her hand and supported her one by one. Because it was a rainy day, the lights were not turned on in the ward, and the light was dim. Lu Wenzhou watched her figure gradually go away. When he went downstairs, he stood in front of the window and watched Lu Yuyu hold the umbrella for her and Xiao Ai help her open the car door. The girls around her are very nice to her. The boys around her adore her. Wang Hui entered the ward and said cautiously, "Second master, the car has left." Lu Wenzhou, can't I see it? Wang Hui. It's very unfair. After a long while, Lu Wenzhou said, that song or something. Song Yuchen openly stated on Weibo that he wanted to pursue Zhou Tao, and the internet was abuzz. If his fans attacked Zhou Tao, he would be punished himself. He has a posture of wanting beauty, not fans, not career. Until now, his fans are all. I don't dare to scold Zhou Tao anymore. Lu Wenzhou left the ward and walked through the staff passage. The big black umbrella covered him tightly and sent him to the car. He took out a cigarette, and Wang Hui, the co-driver, immediately leaned forward and lit a cigarette for him. Lu Wenzhou frowned deeply. The fingers of his right hand slipped on the screen of his phone, and finally called Lu Su. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1034. As the smoke filled the air, he spoke slowly, can I openly express my pursuit of Zhou Tao? Over there, Lu Su had finished his promotional period and had not had much work recently. He was sleeping heavily. When his second brother said this unexpectedly, he was stunned. Ah! Song Yuchen can openly say that he likes Zhou Tao, why can't I? He asked Lu Su so directly that he stopped him. It took him a while to wake up, because Song Yuchen has taken the lead. Someone has already expressed his intention to pursue her. Second brother, you can't follow suit. Why? Lu Su could only educate his brother who had no relationship experience. If one man openly pursues her, others will think it is because Zhou Tao is outstanding. If there are 2 or 3 or even more men who express their intention to pursue her, people in this circle will inevitably have conspiracy theories. What kind of conspiracy theories do you think there will be? Lu Wenzhou, what conspiracy theory? Lu Su was speechless and choked. Second brother, you are so ignorant in relationships, how can you pursue Zhou Tao? They will think that it is Zhou Tao's ability to seduce, flatter, and flirt with others that makes so many men like her. She didn't. It doesn't matter whether she is alive or not. What matters is what others think of her. It doesn't matter how many bowls of noodles she has eaten. Do you understand? Lu Wenzhou was a little angry. What's the use of you? Lu Su felt aggrieved. Then why are you calling me? Bye. Lu Su stopped his brother and said, just contact her in the name of work. Aren't you a big investment guy? See if there are any suitable books for her and let her take pictures. Don't have a strong purpose, otherwise the closer you get, the more Zhou Tao retreats, the more he will lose. Lu Wenzhou raised his eyebrows and said, I understand. It seems that this is the only way. He was unsure whether he could make up for his past mistakes in this life and whether he would have a chance to reunite with Zhou Tao. You come and choose the script. After you choose it, send it to Wen Qiao and Zhou Tao to read. Once they decide, they will invest and let Zhou Tao film it. Don't worry, brother, I promise to get this done for you, and Zhou Tao won't let Zhou Tao know that you are the investor behind the scenes before filming starts. Lu Wenzhou's voice was deep, yes. Over there, Lu Yuyu settled Zhou Tao, and Wen Qiao came to visit. The old apartment she lived in had no elevator, which was inconvenient. How about I find you a new house? There are no gates or anything like that here. Zhou Tao, I have rebooked the house myself and will move there when my foot injury heals. Wen Qiao asks Yao Ai to stay and take care of Zhou Tao. You don't need to participate in the rest of the publicity. Junling is signing with Huihe now. I have also contacted the staff at Huihe. Junling and Song Yuchen will be running the rest of the publicity. Just have a good rest. After Wen Qiao returned home from visiting Zhou Tao, her brother-in-law was sitting in the living room. Why didn't you go to work at the amusement park? Susie, I quit my job at the amusement park. Wen Qiao was silent. Ah. Why did you quit? Susie sat on the bamboo chair with a leisurely expression. I want to collect the blood of those people with you, and I can't do it without me. Oh, when do we start? Susie's expression was solemn. The first person is in Hiken. I plan to go with you tomorrow to explore the bottom first. Wen Qiao took a peach and took a bite. Are we just the two of us together? Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1035. Susie pointed to the robot standing obediently behind her. Number 3 will be here too. Wen Qiao nodded. Oh, that's good. Do you want to tell your boyfriend? Wen Qiao pursed his lips. Let's just say it. Otherwise, the jealousy will flare up again, and it will still be her when the time comes. At this time, Fu Nanli was abroad. Tomorrow I will go to the first home with the same blood type to see if they are willing to donate blood to me. Not long after Fu Nanli landed, he thought, we'll talk about it when I get back. Wen Qiao, my brother-in-law and number 3 will go with me. They are in Hiken. Nothing will happen. Fu Nanli stretched out his hand and tugged on his tie. Can't you wait until I come back? Wen Qiao shrugged. There are 7 times in total. I can't take you with me every time. Why not? Wen Qiao, You have your own business. You are so busy. I am relatively free during the summer vacation. My uncle also quit his job at the amusement park. There is nothing to do on the 3rd. Fu Nanli gritted his teeth. I can also resign from my position at Zhonghuan, and I can also resign from my position as captain of Dongchuan Airlines. He went with her to find clues and save her life, which now became the top priority of his life. Wen Qiao smiled. What are you talking about? You are busy with your business, and I am busy with mine. If there is any difficulty, I will definitely ask you for help, but I can't rely on you for everything. Fu Nanli, don't get hurt. He knew what kind of temper that girl had. She always shouted to work together, and the people she met at the highest peak didn't like to rely on him for everything, and even wanted to help him share his worries and solve his problems. Wen Qiao, don't worry, you won't be hurt. After hanging up the phone, Su Ce glanced at her. Is it necessary to explain everything to him in every detail? Isn't it like this when it comes to falling in love? Uncle, you don't understand. Su Ce. It seems to be connotated. What kind of person is the first person that Hizue gave me? Su Ce took out his cell phone and took a look. There is a wealthy businessman named Shen in Haikan. He has 3 sons and a daughter named Shenning. This Shenning is the illegitimate daughter of the wealthy businessman. Wen Qiao played with the mobile phone in his hand, and couldn't help but think of Gu Xiao. Although she is an illegitimate daughter, because the wealthy businessman surnamed Shen only has 1 daughter and the others are sons, she is extremely fond of this illegitimate daughter. And because she is a respectable person, the outside world does not know that Shenning is Shen Kuozhong. Your daughter, who has the same rare blood type as you, is Shenning. Wen Qiao, because her identity is secret, you didn't find her record from the blood bank, right? How did Hizue find out? Su Ce chuckled. Who knows him? Wen Qiao looked at the information on her uncle's mobile phone page. Do you know where the Shen family's mansion is? Will you come directly to the house tomorrow? Or should I contact you in advance? I know where it is, and I've asked Aisha to contact it in advance. Then what? Then we agreed that we would visit tomorrow. Wen Qiao grabbed a handful of melon seeds in his hand and ate them leisurely. Is it so easy? Su Ce, well, at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, we will go to Shen's house together. That night, Wen Qiao was tossing and turning a little, wondering if tomorrow would go smoothly. 600 milliliters should not be difficult. The next day, when it was still dark, Wen Mo entered Wen Qiao's room and took her hand. Sister, my uncle asked you to get up. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me. The boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1036. Wen Qiao kept thinking about things until she fell asleep at around 3 in the morning. She took out her phone and saw that it was only 6 o'clock. Her head was severely deprived of oxygen, and her voice was hoarse, and she said, "This is too early." Wen Mo, then I'll bring you breakfast. Wen Qiao buried his head in the quilt for a while, then lifted the quilt and said, "No need." After leaving the bedroom, my uncle sat at the table and had breakfast. Number 3 stood at the door like a doorkeeper. When he saw her coming out, he stepped forward with a smile. "Qiao Qiao, the toothpaste is squeezed out for you. You brush your teeth first." Wen Qiao chuckled, "Thank you." After brushing his teeth and washing his face, Wen Qiao put on some moisturizer, finally looking 2 points more refined than before. Golden toasted bread, milk, and bacon were already placed on the table. It was all prepared for her by number 3, like a good wife and mother, working hard and doing everything for her without complaining. Even though he was a robot, Wen Qiao still felt uncomfortable and said thank you to him. Number 3 always looked at her with a gentle smile, with a rather old father look in his eyes. After breakfast, number 3 drove, with Wen Qiao and Su Ce sitting in the back seat, and the car drove south. The Shen family's mansion is located in the southernmost part of Haikan, close to the boundary of Hangzhou. Haikan is surrounded by mountains on 3 sides. Many wealthy people choose mid-level villas because they have good privacy and will not be disturbed. Half an hour later, the car stopped at the foot of the mountain. There were 2 security guards at the gate next to the carved hollow gate. Their posture was similar to that of the Fu family. Knowing that it was Professor Su who was coming, the security immediately opened the door and the car drove up the winding mountain road. It was still early, and the morning fog in the mountains had not yet receded. Wen Qiao's eyes lingered outside, calculating the time to go up the mountain. 10 minutes later, the car stopped at the door of a magnificent villa. Wen Qiao glanced at the watch on his wrist. Well, it takes the Fu family 15 minutes to get from the foot of the mountain to the main villa. The boundary of the Shen family is smaller than that of the Fu family. Sure enough, the Fu family is the richest man. The garden in front of the mansion is beautifully manicured, because it is located in the mountains, and the mist is misty. It is almost 8 o'clock now, but the surroundings are very quiet and there is no one. Behind the main house is a large forest, which is dimly lit and looks a bit eerie. Cramped. Wen Qiao was a little puzzled, why is there no one? Su Ce looked around, I'm not sure. Let's get out of the car first. As soon as Wen Qiao got out of the car, he saw a middle-aged man in a straight suit suddenly walking behind the thick trunk of a French plane tree. The man's hair was meticulously combed, his skin was very fair, and he had a standard smile on his face, but he looked uncomfortable and stiff. The man walked up to the 3 of them and smiled slightly, who is Professor Su? Su Ce, I am the steward of the Shen family, just call me Uncle Chen. No one spoke. Su Ce and Wen Qiao were both nervous, but they just looked up and down at the indifferent-looking butler. Number 3 always follows Wen Qiao. He opens his mouth only when Wen Qiao opens his mouth. If Wen Qiao doesn't open his mouth, he keeps his mouth tightly shut. Where's Mr. Shen? Uncle Chen smiled and said, Sir, he is feeding the dogs in the back house. You 3 should go to the side hall and wait for a while. After saying that, he led the 3 people into the mansion. The decoration style of the mansion is quite modern, but because it was a cloudy day, the lights were not turned on, and the whole house was gloomy. There were servants in maid uniforms cleaning the house, and everyone was doing it lightly. The atmosphere was depressing. Wen Qiao sat down and looked around. Suddenly, something small hit her on the back of the head. She reached out to cover the back of her head. When she looked back, she saw a boy hiding under the stairs. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1037. The boy was about 12 or 13 years old, wearing a white shirt, black knee-length suit pants, stockings that reached his calves, and small leather shoes on his feet, dressed in a British style. He had a small slingshot in his hand, so the blow to Wen Qiao's back of the head was from his hand. The little boy filled up the slingshot in his hand again, and a pebble shot out quickly. Wen Qiao raised his hand and caught the pebble. The boy's eyes widened immediately, and then he ran out with the slingshot. The housekeeper, Uncle Chen, shouted, Miss Wen, can you help our husband discipline the young master? Wen Qiao. Ah! Is it inappropriate for me, an outsider, to discipline your young master? Uncle Chen still had a standard smile, if you can help us discipline the young master, sir, I have said that I can meet any of your requirements. Wen Qiao raised his eyebrows, does your husband know why we are here? Won't he come out and talk to us first? Uncle Chen, please wait a moment. After a while, a middle-aged man in his 40s or 50s came down from upstairs. The man was well maintained and had a fair complexion. It could be seen that he usually paid attention to exercise and was not weak. Shen Qiuzhong walked up to Su Ce and smiled. I have heard of Professor Su for a long time, but I didn't expect him to be so young. Well, I didn't say hello to Wen Qiao. Although he has joined the billion-dollar club, in the eyes of these big guys, Xiao Wen's achievements are still not worth mentioning. Su Ce said calmly, let me introduce, this is my niece, the owner of Nanqiao Company and AFE Sports Club. Shen Qiuzhong just nodded slightly. A little dismissive. Wen Qiao. Okay, she has to keep working hard. Sit down, you three come to my Shen house, what do you want? Su Ce explained his purpose of coming, and Shen Qiuzhong's face darkened. Although Shen Ning was his illegitimate daughter, he treated her equally with his three sons. He even doted on Shen Ning more because she was a girl. A bit. Moreover, Shen Ning is only 18 years old now. How can he, a father, be willing to draw so much blood from an 18-year-old girl? Shen Qiuzhong paused and said, sorry, I can't agree to your request. Wen Qiao's face darkened, and she knew that things would not go so smoothly. Su Ce, Mr. Shen, you can think about it? I heard that your father is not in good health. I can treat him for free. Shen Qiuzhong said, my father has been ill for a long time. It is not fatal. Thank you Professor Su for your kindness. Su Ce, 600 milliliters of blood is not too much. Miss Shen can just rest for a while after drawing blood. Shen Qiuzhong insisted, my daughter is very delicate. I am not willing to let her donate even 1 ml, let alone 600 milliliter. Su Ce's expression was a little ugly. Hezue didn't tell him this beforehand. He didn't know that it was so difficult for each person to collect 600 ml of blood. Su Ce stood up and put a note on the desk, this is my phone number. If Mr. Shen changes his mind, please contact me. Shen Qiuzhong's attitude was firm, and it seemed meaningless to say any more. Wen Qiao didn't say much, and followed her uncle out with number 3. The fog dispersed outside, the sun shone through the thin clouds from the treetops, and there was still water vapor hanging on the lush green grass. Wen Qiao saw 2 rabbits on the grass, one white and one gray. She walked in the front, and the white rabbit jumped up and down. In the morning, the mountains were so quiet that even the birds could not be heard. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1038. Passing through a branch of vigorous branches, I saw the rabbit stopped in front of the purple wisteria. The boy who shot her with a slingshot sat under the white porch and cried. He was crying and rubbing his eyes. The thin and frail little boy looked pitiful. Wen Qiao walked towards her, and when he was about to reach the purple wisteria flower trellis, suddenly, her feet became empty and she fell down. Number 3 and Su Ce rushed over, but they couldn't hold her back. Wen Qiao seemed to have fallen into an abyss. Fortunately, the pit was not deep, about 3 meters, about the height of a floor. She fell suddenly, and without any psychological defense, she fell heavily to the ground. The pain on her body was severe. She lowered her eyes and saw that for some reason, there were several bloody wounds on her arms. She never expected that there would be such a big trap in front of such a mansion, on such an exquisite lawn. What kind of bad taste does this Shen family have? What's wrong with this family? The pit was very deep and narrow, and could only accommodate 2 people at most. The light was dim at the moment, so she stood up with difficulty and reached out to hold the wall of the pit. Wen Qiao suddenly retracted his hand, and his eyes adapted to the dim light and saw that there were several small blades on the wall of the pit. What the hum? So who dug this hole? Who placed these blades? No wonder she had several wounds on her arms, all of which were caused by these blades. Su Ce and number 3 ran to the pit. Eiko, are you okay? These blades were very sharp. Wen Qiao actually gasped in pain, but he was afraid that his uncle would be worried, so he said blankly, "I'm fine. Number 3, I'm coming down to save you. Wen Qiao, just find a rope and pull me up." The little boy who was sitting and crying just now also lay down at the pit with a smile on his face, and said with a smile, 106. Wen Qiao squinted at the eerie little boy, "What 106? You are the 106th person who has been deceived and fallen into the trap. Most of them are girls. When they see me crying, they can't bear it anymore and have to run over to comfort me." Wen Qiao. Sociopathic personality, right? Why is it so dark? Are you sick? Wen Qiao couldn't help but ask. The little boy's face was a little distorted, his eyes were gloomy, he hummed, as if he had been greatly wronged, and then he turned away and ran away. Wen Qiao. Number 3 had already asked the housekeeper to bring him a string of hemp rope. Number 3 hung the hemp rope down and pulled Wen Qiao up alone. Only then did Susie see the blood marks on her arms. There were 4 blood marks on her left and right arms. There were also 2 tears in the jeans on her legs. There were probably injuries on her legs as well. How so? Wen Qiao touched his arm carelessly, "There are small blades around it. It's scratching." "It's okay, uncle. It's just a slight injury." Susie looked at the butler, Uncle Chen. Uncle Chen still had a formulaic smile, "Young master is naughty, I hope Miss Wen doesn't mind." Susie's eyes were stern and he was pulled down by Wen Qiao. "Wen Qiao, has he always been like this?" Since Wen Qiao still had requests from the Shen family, she could only suppress her anger. And Susie, because of Wen Qiao, had to endure it. "The young master has a bit of a weird temper, but he really doesn't mean to hurt anyone." Wen Qiao's eyebrows trembled. "Does this mean you don't mean to hurt anyone? Do you have to put a knife into your heart to be hurtful? It's really dumbfounding." Wen Qiao glanced at the little boy who ran straight to the mansion, with a complicated expression, "Really? You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1039. Uncle Chen smiled and said, "Of course, we will call you about Miss Wen's medical expenses. Please provide your account number. In addition, he is a child, so please keep it quiet." Wen Qiao smiled half-heartedly, "It won't be public, so Mr. Shen can rest assured." Uncle Chen, "Thank you, Miss Wen, for your understanding." After saying that, he sent the 3 of them to the car with a kind attitude. Susie looked a little sinister and took out a tissue to help Wen Qiao hold the wound. "I'll take care of it for you when you get back." Wen Qiao, "Yeah." As number 3 drove down the mountain along the winding road, Wen Qiao pressed the tissue on the wound. "The little boy is the youngest master of the Shen family. Seems like it. It's a bit of an antisocial personality. Even if it's not antisocial, it's a pathological personality and not normal." Susie, "Really?" Wen Qiao was dumbfounded. "Don't you think he is abnormal? He has a violent tendency and gets pleasure from other people's injuries. And I was the one who was fooled, which means that he has hurt many people before, but his father Shen Qiuzhong turning a blind eye, this family is quite strange." Susie pressed his eyebrows. "I used to be around many people like this." Wen Qiao, "He must be seriously ill. Uncle Chen wanted us to discipline his young master before. I'm afraid Shen Qiuzhong won't be able to discipline his own son." Susie, "So? What are your plans? If I discipline his son for him in exchange, will he agree to our request?" Susie frowned. "Do you think this Yandere personality is easy to change? Do you think the Shen family has never hired a psychiatrist? Wen Xiao, you have to give it a try. Otherwise, if you die before you leave, the next few people won't need to look for them at all. Su Ce pressed his temples, wondering if Hizue did it on purpose. Su Ce, go back first. Of course Wen Xiao was in pain. The wound scratched by the small blade was oozing out blood. She turned pale in pain and sweat slowly dripped down her forehead. You little brat, are you a sociopath? Let's see how she handles him later. When she got home, her mother came back to get something. Wen Xiao happened to be wearing short sleeves and her arms were scarred. She was afraid that her mother would see her, so she could only hide behind Su Ce. Su Yun held the wind oil essence in her hand and glanced at her. Why are you hiding behind your uncle? Wen Xiao, Mom, what are you doing with Fen Zhijing? Your Uncle Ji went to get the goods. He had a bit of heat stroke while carrying the goods outside into the supermarket. I wiped him with Fen Zhijing and Huaxiang Genki liquid. Wen Xiao, then go quickly, don't keep Uncle Ji waiting. Su Yun was interrupted by her and forgot about it. She hurried out of the yard without thinking much. There was a gentle draft in the hall, and even though it was midsummer in July, it wasn't too hot. Number 3 brought the medicine box over, helped Su Ce prepare it, and then stood aside obediently. He has a gentle temperament and doesn't talk much. But he is big and his personality and appearance never seem to match. Su Ce treated the wounds on her arm, and after careful counting, there were 6 cuts, which made her angry. There were a few tears on the jeans, so Su Ce said solemnly, go to the room and deal with it yourself. Wen Xiao took the medicine box into the room and treated the wound. When he came out, Su Ce was calling Hizue. Since you have investigated, you should know what kind of people the Shen family is. Why didn't you tell us in advance? Over there, Hizue chuckled, do you think I'm your nanny? Tell you everything. This time it was Susai's turn to choke. Hizue, then just hope that you or your brother will be healthy and worry-free in this life. Thanks for the tip, Kinga, Tang Tang, Lingmu Shuangqing, Yui Yang, Jasmine Blossoms, clouds think of clothes and flowers think of wrong, today is closed, memories of autumn, Mo Bulletin Mo, Mubai, Crystal, Shensia flowers bloom, Chiu Ball Mom, happiness /U0026 amp, baby, happy angel, analysis, Nanchinj Kingxiao, ending, famous store street, Li Zioan, 151-90-15, the sea and sky are vast, Nanji a little lover, Xiaoting, floating clouds and morning glow, Zhenzhen Mahamp, angels distance, future. Dear. What, 3, Epsilon. Amnesiac Bigshot remembers only me, the boss lost his memory and only remembers me. Author, Ding Jiashu. Chapter 1040. After all, he is an internationally renowned doctor. Only he can solve medical problems that others cannot overcome. For example, Gu Xiao had been treated by so many famous doctors in country M, but in the end he still had to perform the surgery. Hizue knew this well. I only know that there is a Shenning in the Shen family who has the same blood type as your niece. How can I know other things? What? I've hit a snag. Su Ce glanced at Wen Xiao and said indifferently, nothing, hang up now. At this point, he knew that the blood of those people was not so easy to obtain. Hizue was just watching from the other side, fearing that they would stumble. He would definitely have to work hard to get there again. Have the wounds been treated? Wen Xiao nodded, yes, it's all done. Are there many injuries on your legs? Wen Xiao pursed his lips, it's okay, just a few words. Su Ce's face darkened, I can't explain anything to your boyfriend. Wen Xiao, you really can't help but pick up the pot. That night, Fu Chuan called, Nan Li asked you to sleep at his place tonight. He will arrive at night. Wen Xiao, ah. So fast? Aren't you still in Helsinki in the morning? Well, he got on the plane in the morning. He couldn't get through to you, so he called me. Wen Qiao said he knew, but did not take any action. After looking at the conspicuous scars on his arms, he felt that he should avoid it for a few days to avoid being taught a lesson by someone again. Fu Nanli arrived in Haikan at midnight. When he got home, it was 2:40. It was raining outside. When he got out of the car, he was caught in the rain and took off a few hats, with water dripping from the brim. As he went upstairs, he unbuttoned his shirt. The room was quiet and the light was dim. He walked very lightly. When he opened the bedroom door, he saw a bulge in the quilt. He walked over and could see through the dim light. Seeing her peaceful sleeping face, he bent down and kissed the corner of her mouth. Wen Qiao muttered, "What time is it?" She came anyway, because she knew Fu Nanli's temperament, and even if she didn't take the initiative, he would definitely look for her in the middle of the night. He was so tired from flying that he had to go to her courtyard to look for her in the middle of the night. He was waiting for her. He thought he might as well come over on his own initiative. Don't want him to be too tired. It's almost 3 o'clock in the sound of rain. His voice sounded deep and low, like a cello sonata, which made Wen Qiao feel even more drowsy. Why are you coming back in such a hurry? Fu Nanli squinted at her. Aren't you worried about you? How about going to Shen's house today? As soon as these words came out, Wen Qiao's sleepy boy ran away immediately, squinted his eyes, and smiled. It's okay. Although she is an illegitimate daughter, Shen Kuozhong loves her very much. She won't let me succeed in one go. I'll run more after a few trips, they should relent. Fu Nanli's big hand gently touched her face, and then moved down. Wen Qiao was agitated and lost all sleep. She took his big hand and said, "It's getting late. Go take a shower and go to bed." But the big hand had already landed on her arm, and a confused voice came, "Don't you always wear short-sleeved pajamas in summer?" Wen Qiao. That's not just to cover up the scars on his arms. It feels a little cold today, maybe because of the rain. Go take a shower. Fu Nanli turned on the bedside lamp and wanted to lift her sleeves. Wen Qiao grabbed his big hand and said, "What are you doing? It's so late, I want to go to bed."